Ladies and gentlemen, yes, sorry I'm late. I had a bit of a problem with my sound. Plugged it into the wrong thing, but never mind what we're talking about today, ladies and gentlemen. CPI, core CPI, has come in higher. Now, the core CPI is the Federal Reserve's main inflationary gauge. That's what they pay attention to. And those prices came in higher, which could suggest that even though the year-on-year inflation reading has been lower, could suggest that inflation might be a little bit more of a problem getting down to the target that we want. Now, looking at what's going on across the board, we've seen the dollar shoot up, euro come back down. Bitcoin's not really giving us that much of a flavorsome move up per se, but it's a tricky one, ladies and gentlemen, because what you've got to understand is if the inflation reading is suggestive that inflation is coming down, then the Fed's naturally going to give us the rate cuts that we want so that they can stimulate the economy, all right? But it's a little bit of a tricky one because today I was giving out an update and the reading was 2.6% and then it got changed to 2.5%. Why are they revising everything? I know they're revising the GDP. I know they've revised the labor details on regards to the unemployment market. Is this just to make it all look good for the presidential election? Did anybody watch that? Polls are coming in that Kamala's actually doing pretty well with it. And it was a lot of he said, she said. No, I didn't say that. Yes, you did say that. No, she's never been there. He's never been there. There is a prospect of them actually doing it again, but Trump says he will look into it. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, let's get with the flavor today and then understand what we can expect going into the marketplace. Where is my thing? Bloody hell. What a day, man. What a day. Anyways, let's get with the program. Here we go. So, look, core consumer prices rise 0.3% more than forecast. Says here that consumer prices excluding food and energy rose higher than expected in August, and shelter costs and lingering source of inflationary pressure drove the CPI increase. Investors are converging around a quarter point Fed cut next week. So that's not good, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want a quarter cut. We want a full, and well, ideally a whole point. But it looks like the 25 basis points seems to be the thing that's actually going to be coming into play with everything. And then when we go over and have a look at what's been going on, we think to ourselves, hold on a second, what can we get from this? Well, Bitcoin's made a nice little pump to the upside. Euro comes down and then shoots back up again. And then we just quickly go over to the dollar dominance. You can see it's made the pump to the upside, coming back down again. Oil's making not so much of a tricky, well, a decent move per se, but we're going into the bonds market. That's what we need to be looking at. Look at NASDAQ. NASDAQ has just made this shoot to the upside, fully recovering the red vector candle. And now we're trading above the daily open. In principle, looking at it on the 1 hour time frame, it looks like NASDAQ is skewed to try and make a pump to the upside. And they've just recovered this red vector candle, but we've got the problem of this wick right here. And given that NASDAQ likes to sweep certain zones, a sweep and then a retracement back down could be on the cards with NASDAQ. It all depends on how the futures markets, which will be opening in the next 20 minutes, is going to decide that fate. Now, from the perspective of Bitcoin itself, we can go over and see that Bitcoin's doing all right. I mean, it's down 1.29% for the day. And looking at the news across the board with Bitcoin, check this out. Bitcoin could reach $1 million in sight. I mean, 2025. That's not too far away, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm seeing all these price projections for Bitcoin, and it's always so far ahead. And, okay, 2025. I get that. I mean, how many of you believe that Bitcoin is going to hit $1 million in 2025? That's the question. So going into it all, it was from a recent video from Altcoin Daily and Samson Mo's Bitcoin price prediction that Bitcoin could reach $1 million by 2025. And that has caught quite a bit of attention. He says that it's undervalued to the sum of around $567,000. Now, check this out. Long-term Bitcoin outlook is positive amid rising US debt and interest payments. Look at this chart right here. You can see here that this is the public debt and federal deficit versus the gold price. Now, you can see that investors ain't really favoring dollar right now because, look, gold is shooting up, okay? And then you've got the deficit of the dollar. So, look at this. For every dollar the US makes, they owe 121% on top. How is that possible, man? How can you sustain something like that? Doesn't make sense, which is what we really want to be seeing happening with Bitcoin. Look at this. Gold's going up against the US dollar. Okay. So logic says Bitcoin should be moving up against the US dollar. But we're not seeing that behavior with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not even going up. It's just stuck in this 56,900 zone. Going into the bids and the offers, we can see that we haven't had that many offers coming into play at the top side over here to the left of to the right of the chart. And I'm starting to see some off bids coming into play right here where people will be buying Bitcoin as it drops down. We've just seen some short liquidations coming into action, but yesterday or last night, there was some long liquidations taken out. This is the monthly chart over here. I'm going to just flip this over and go to the 12-hour chart to put it into perspective for us. So you can see that we have got, I mean, in terms of liquidations, to see a clear view of the liquidations, we've got here this liquidation map, and it does show that around 57,000 there's quite a few short liquidations at 100x leverage. What you really want to be aiming for is, you want to, if you are a swing trader, you want to be paying attention to the higher margins, which are all the way down here at 54 and the top side at 60,000. So the logic would say that in the short term, we could see some liquidations coming in for Bitcoin for the shorts. And that would be consistent with the red vector candle region right here. Okay. Now going into the New York Open itself, given that the Brinks box finalizes in the next 15 minutes or so, we've got to say to ourselves, where is the market overall? What's their head saying? Well, look, we know that CPI data has come in higher. And remember, look, this right here says here, changing the price of goods and services. This consumer prices is, it says here, consumer prices account for the majority of overall inflation, all right? And inflation is important currency valuation because rising prices lead to the central bank to raise interest rates out of respect for their inflation containment mandate. That's just been increased, but that's not been shown in the actual CPI itself. So CPI is coming in lower year on year, but we've got higher prices, which naturally is going to have an impact on inflation. Now, remember, manufacturing sector is contracting for the past 5 months. So naturally, manufacturers are going to want to increase the costs of their services and goods, and then the consumer can absorb that. And then when we go into this week's data over here on Friday with the consumer sentiment, if consumer sentiment comes in higher, then that means that people are just absorbing the cost of goods and how expensive things are, okay? So that's where it kind of puts us in a bit of a tricky situation. I mean, to put it in nail in the coffin is, if the unemployment claims comes in lower, then that would then suggest that the economy isn't really struggling as much as they're making it out to be. But again, the GDP is going to get revised, ladies and gentlemen. There's no two ways about that. And I don't know if they're going to get it done in time for the election. They'll probably put it out after the election as such, because they want to make everything look kind of good. Okay. Going into other news itself, ladies and gentlemen, in the debate itself, Bitcoin or crypto wasn't mentioned at all, which is probably why everything started to pull back. And this is what you got to ask yourself. With this data that's come out, okay, given that there's been nearly $750 million worth of outflows in the Bitcoin ETF or digital assets overall, you want to ask yourself, why would they be getting rid of it now? If Bitcoin is poised for a significant move to the upside and it's going to hit $1 million, why would BlackRock get rid of it? Going into it all, we can see that we've seen quite a few purchases coming into play as of late, but nothing really significant. I mean, we're talking 1 million, 6 million, 6 million over here. Wisdom Tree, ARK. I mean, BlackRock's been the one that's been offloading everything. And we can see here 300 Bitcoin was offloaded with the sum of 17 million taken off the board. Just quickly going over into Coinbase Premium Index, just to refresh this, we can see that some investors are effectively buying up Bitcoin. But remember, when it's green, we really want to pay attention to it because it could suggest that people are actually selling the Bitcoin. Retail's coming in buying Bitcoin. In order for them to buy it, they need for it to be sold. So looking at this, it then adds and puts more weight to the idea that if retail is buying Bitcoin, then we're going to see a little bit more movement to the upside, but I'm not seeing the offers coming in at the top range right here. So it's like no one's really interested in selling just yet, okay? So then that could grant the idea that we could be seeing some more bids, because when you go on the 12-hour time frame over here, you can see we got some hefty bids down here, 10 million. We had 20 million earlier on as well, 5 million down here, 10 million, 500, 2.5 million. And we had a couple of 20, there you go, 20 million down here. I just saw it. There you go, 27 million at 49,850. I mean, the prospect of Bitcoin hitting 50K, I mean, that's going to be an interesting story, isn't it? Okay. But look, as long as the NASDAQ and the S&P keep climbing up, then that's a good sign. It just goes that they could be just getting ready to just sweep the liquidity, come the open of the futures markets, and then we might get a narrative lower. But it all depends on how the market reacts to core prices rising, prospect of no high interest rate cut. That's the problem. It says over here that it looks like they're going to be pricing in a 1/4 point Fed. That's no good. We want a higher rate cut because if the economy is genuinely slowing down, the Fed needs to do something quite aggressively to stimulate the economy. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into it? Tino, bro, you and Gary Gensler in the room by yourselves, who comes out alive? He wouldn't be going in there alive in the first place. Come on, bro. I won the debate. Any other questions? Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. I get it. Trump got obliterated. Look, okay, so looking at the odds for it all, ladies and gentlemen, just to put it into perspective, if we just go to the market itself, go to analysis, let me just go over to, where is it? I have it somewhere. Where is my thing? I don't get it. Where do I normally see it? It gives me a breakdown of where we are with the actual, with the election. Here we go, 2024 presidential election. Check this out. So they haven't updated it per se, but look, Kamala's like, it's actually holding it down. Swing states, 93. This hasn't been updated just yet, but it's head on head. And we've got these odds, Polymarket's odds are coming into place showing that Harris is kind of leading, but that could be today. And then tomorrow it could be a completely new story itself. Okay, so Bitcoin's starting to make a bit of move. NASDAQ is still trying to climb up. It's like they're loving the idea of the fact that core prices ain't a problem. We're now getting a rate cut. So it's like they're pricing that in right now. Okay. They're pricing in the rate cut. So happy days. So what's the next thing we got to look for? Well, the next thing we got to look for is the unemployment claims itself. So when that comes out, and then of course, tomorrow's bond auction, that's going to put things into perspective for us. All right. So it looks like it's a decent day overall, but I really need to see Bitcoin just trying to climb up because it could find some resistances at this red vector candle region itself. It hasn't even broken Asian session high or low. So it's going to be quite an interesting day. Let me just quickly have a look at where we are in terms of altcoins and what have you. So look, it says here that bull and bear fear greed index, whatever it is, showing that there's a strong sell in Bitcoin. All right. So whatever you're seeing Bitcoin doing on the smaller time frames, don't be fazed by it because you need to take into consideration the bigger picture. $750 million worth of digital assets have been sold, in ETFs included. So if that was just an advert to say to everyone, all right, get rid of it all for them to only step back in and buy it again, well, it doesn't look like it's going down, but it does have a very important area that at some point Bitcoin could actually take. And I hope that it doesn't take it because that would then eliminate my projection of Bitcoin going to 80K before the Fed cut itself. Okay, mad love for the gifts, my friend. Mad love. Great Uncle Tino. Do you do analysis of the 1 to 5 15-minute vectors on Bitcoin? Yeah, give me a sec on that one. And Tino, do you have any opinion on Coinbase app falling below rank 500 in Apple Store? It peaked at 40 this year. Does it mean retail is gone? Look, that's on the basis that people actually rank it in the sense they rate it. How many of you actually rate apps? Like when it says, click this, you could be in the app. You're not interested in getting out of the app. You just press no, not now. Okay. That's on the basis of people actually rating the app. But does it mean that people aren't getting involved into cryptocurrency? Just look at Google Trends. Is crypto being searched right now? It doesn't look like it is, given that Bitcoin only gets searched when prices are rising and Bitcoin's prices have been going down. So it could mean that, but again, you've got to go and look at the price action for Coinbase. Let me just go over to it, pull up the chart of Coinbase, and you've got to say to yourself, when Coinbase goes up, does Bitcoin go up? Coinbase goes down, does Bitcoin go down? So you look at coin right here, Coinbase Global. you can see it's come down, but it looks like it's holding out relatively well on the weekly. Go to the daily chart itself. You can see that it's holding out inside of this range right here. Going over into the question that gentleman asked about Bitcoin on the 1 minute. I mean, nothing can be done right now until we wait for the Brinks box. I need to wait for the Brinks box to understand the logic of price action inside of this zone. And that is the same with the NASDAQ as well. NASDAQ is just continuously marking up. And when I see NASDAQ do that, I don't like it because they're leaving vector candles behind, which could suggest that there's going to be a little bit of a trickery coming into play later on. So just be very careful when you're playing NASDAQ to the upside. It's just not stopping going up. Looks like the buy button clearly works, but the sell button doesn't. But I don't trust it until I wait and see when the market opens very, very shortly. This looks like a fade to the upside. They could be getting rid of all of the guys who are running shorts on NASDAQ, and they're eating into that liquidity right now. Look, it's just a strong move up. Happy days. Recovery of the vector candle, and this is where we could expect them to try and move away from. But when you look at Bitcoin, I mean, look, where's the vector candle? I'm not seeing a vector just yet on the hourly, so that's a problem for me. And then you've got Bitcoin right here, not really making the move to the upside. Drop to the 5-minute time frame. I can't see any vectors that are grabbing my attention to the upside other than these ranges right here. Again, you can't make the assumption that Bitcoin is going to like make a massive pump to the upside, given that you have got vectors right here, but the history of the vectors over here would suggest that if price does come back into that point, we could assume that there could be an area of resistance in that area. So we'd need to see more confirmation from Bitcoin to try and mark up, and you'll get that from the Brinks box formation. Now, you really want to wait until 3 p.m. to really start trading, because the market would have opened, which is in the next 5 minutes, and then the market would have had time to react to the news announcements. We don't know how the market's going to react to the idea of higher prices in the core month on month, and even though inflation has come down, even though it was revised from 2.6, we've got the images right here, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the proof to show that that was showing 2.6. And if you were looking at that at 2.6, why would they revise it? People are coming out with the idea that maybe it's because they want to make it look good for the election. I mean, come on, man. Are people that naive? It's just one of them ones, ladies and gentlemen. It's a tricky one. But given that Bitcoin has done well to move away from the Asian session low, it is still... I need to see it be trading positive for the day to say, yeah, okay, we are good for the upside. If we can't get above that daily open, it's a problem for us, okay? Now, 1 hour NAS candle doesn't have a bottom wick. Wait there, let's just go and have a look at NASDAQ on the 1 hour candle. Yeah, it doesn't have a bottom wick. Yeah, it's just going. And when I see that, that's where I get a little bit concerned about NASDAQ, because the ranges are very, very wide. It's done a stop run lower, come back up, but they've left the wick behind. And NASDAQ has the capacity to just come straight back down. We will know. Because if the idea of 25 basis points has come into play, then this sweep to the upside is effectively being engineered for NASDAQ to come back down again. Because if we know now that 25 basis points is all we're going to get just because of this inflationary reading here, okay, that's not good. Because then that means that in principle, money markets ain't going to be releasing their liquidity. What do I mean by money markets? Well, ETFs. There's $6.3 trillion worth of money stacked in ETF money markets, and they are all locked in with bonds. Now look at this. Go to NASDAQ, go to the bonds market. How is it that the yields have shot up, okay? NASDAQ's moved up. The bonds market has come down, okay? Usually you want to see bonds moving up, yields going down, NASDAQ moving up, because then it means investors are seeking high risk and low risk. But right now it looks like they want high risk for a short period of time, and then they're going to get the bonds on the cheap and then try and bring the bonds market back up, and then the NASDAQ and the S&P could be coming down. Given that the dollar dominance itself has made a spike up and now it's trading lower, it could be coming into vector recoveries to then suggest a move higher. We're not going to know until the market opens in the next few minutes. Okay? You got to pay attention to the bonds market. I mean, look at yen. Yen's coming down. That's not good. Because when yen is down, that means dollar is going to start marking up. So then we got to ask ourselves, is it possible that the yen could be coming down? The dollar's getting ready to move back up. Euro's going to take a stab to the downside even more. NASDAQ and the S&P, well, just going over into the pre-markets, Nvidia has gapped up. Will they close that gap? That's another story, okay? Going into other assets like, let me just have a look at, let's have a look at this. The ETF. The ETF is gapping down, ladies and gentlemen. The ETF is getting ready to gap down, and that gap down there is a problem for me. I'm not liking that gap. Let me just go and have a look at Bitcoin futures markets as well. So Bitcoin futures data, it's not coming into anything. It's not really showing a gap up or down. Yeah, it's not really doing anything. But we've got a red vector candle right there, and then you've got this area here. It's not good. I don't like that area. That's my problem. It may have come back into it, try and retrace, sweep the liquidity, and then come back down again. So I don't like that. But again, NASDAQ is going to be the one that decides it all, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to decide it. And if this move to the upside has been consistent with a run to the upside, or just historically look at how the NASDAQ's been behaving, remember, money isn't going into anything. And if by the principle of NASDAQ and VWAP traders, okay, if you were to anchor a VWAP, hypothetically, you were to take an anchor point, and if you're drawing off anchored VWAPs, always aim for a significant high or significant low. Mark that anchor from the top side over there. Okay, there's your anchor right there. Then take another anchor in principle. Let's take this swing high, okay? Go to there. We've just now swept over that VWAP in principle, okay? So the logic says that we need to wait and see if there is strength in this move to the upside, okay? So maybe a test back down into that VWAP, happy days, continuation up. But just look at the bigger picture of the marketplace. They're pricing in the idea that 25 basis points is it. Unemployment claims tomorrow, if we get the unemployment claims data and it comes in anything higher than 227,000, that means more people are claiming benefit. That's going to push the Fed to really reconsider 25 basis points. Right now, it's based on core PPI data, okay, and the CPI itself. Tomorrow, it's going to be on the unemployment claims. So you can appreciate that the Fed's getting smacked left, right, and center trying to work out what we're going to do. But the logic says that we're going to be going into a 25 basis point cut next week. FOMC, baby. So if you are new to this channel, make sure you're subscribing to that because we're going to be listening to good old Powell, okay? Just before we finalize, 5 key takeaways from the August US Consumer Price Index. Underlying inflation unexpectedly picked up, okay? The so-called Consumer Price Index, which excludes food and energy, increased 0.3% in the most in 4 months and 3.2% from a year ago. So again, do we trust these moves to the upside? I mean, now we got a vector candle, which is a blue one. I don't like that when it appears at the highs of the move. Market's starting to open, and I'm just looking at how everything is across the board here, and I'm not liking it. I don't like it. Look at NASDAQ. Look, it's just getting ready to roll over now. Look. Stop run to the upside. Shake everybody out. CPI's gone up. I saw the comment. CPI's up, CPI's down. It's all good. Yeah, it is all good technically on the reading, but a trigger that's going to make it go back up is core. That's the Fed's primary gauge. And then not to mention, ladies and gentlemen, next week, okay? Oh, God. Man, I'm looking forward to FOMC, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm looking forward to. Look, red vector's coming into play. Green vector candle, if they lose the daily open, it's a problem. Bitcoin, coming back down. Just in time for New York. It's a tricky game, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. It really is. Tino, do you feel we get a small pullback from the stock market crypto if we don't get that 50 basis cut or more? As it stands right now, it looks like we're not getting 50 basis points. Because if we've got high inflation, I mean, the logic is, okay, that if inflation comes in higher, then the Fed's got to prioritize in keeping the interest rates higher because they need to curb that inflation. I mean, it's not looking good. See how everyone's all pumped about Bitcoin pumping. Perfect time to reverse it. These people getting liquidated. I mean, it's not a good story. That's why we always wait for the Brinks box. Always wait for this box to print because we're going to know if this is the true move or whether or not this pump to the upside on Bitcoin has been designed to trap traders, sell the Bitcoin, bring it back down and eat the liquidity to the downside. Not looking good, bruv. Tino, do you see oil recovering the red vector candle at 70 and then oil 70 cents? Oh, $70. I'd watch it with oil, to be fair. When you're trading oil, watch the dollar. Look at that. The tricky sons of a guns. Honestly. Volatility index. Eyes on the volatility index. That's all I'm saying. Keep your eyes on the volatility index. This thing shoots up, the market is going to take a significant move to the downside, but that's when you get ready to buy. When it gets above 30, that's when you buy, ladies and gentlemen. And if it gets above 50, like, just buy. Do anything but buy. Okay? Steal. No, don't steal. I'm joking. The idea is that when it goes above 50, that is where everyone's just gone crazy. That, oh my God, it's a problem across the board. All right. That's when you're looking for discounts. Okay. NASDAQ, you tricky son of a gun. I'm just watching NASDAQ on my setup over here because I've got exo charts over there going crazy. I mean, even if we're looking at exo charts for that perspective right now, you can see that it's Ethereum's coming back down right there. Going to NASDAQ itself, you can see it's at the highs. It's trying its hardest. Not going to lie. It is trying its hardest, but not really seeing that much value being built up here. Okay, so they swept this previous initial balance over here. And the logic says that where's value? It's down here. I mean, this area here, 18,493, that will be a nice drop on NASDAQ and a return back to value. So logic says that we'd want to see them come back into the point of control over here to really see if the move is genuinely good to the upside. But the market's now opening. They're getting used to the swing of things. So just give it a few moments, ladies and gentlemen, and then you'll understand whether or not if assets are going to keep appreciating to the upside. Okay. Price projection for aluminum. As if I read it like that, man. Aluminium, my friend. Where is aluminium? I haven't got aluminium, my friend. But just watch out with commodities, man. They're not going into commodities, only gold. I mean, looking at gold itself, where is gold? Over here. I mean, we shared a projection on gold, and we didn't quite get the stop run that we wanted, but it's just now taken the shoe bag to the downside. They're going into dollars. Investors ain't seeking risk. They're not even safety. They just want dollars. And again, it's one of those tricky ones when the debt is going up, and then everyone still goes into dollars, which is why these guys at BRICS, I don't care what they say. BRICS is going to take a long time to achieve, in my opinion, but that's another story. Tino, can you please explain what you're looking for in regards to the Brinks box to help confirm market sentiment before entering a day trade? Listen, what you got to understand with that, okay? Listen, anyone that wants more information on order flow and all that stuff in relation to the hybrid system, get to tradersreality.com. Part and parcel, the platinum setups that I give cover a lot on order flow, but more importantly, I do provide checklists on specific strategies in the hybrid system, okay? And that's going to help you make sense of how to make moves using the hybrid system. It just summarizes everything for you, all right? So that's platinum in the platinum part of the website itself. That's tradersreality.com. It's pinned to the top of the chat. But to answer your question before we go, you know, what are you, where was it? What you're looking for in the Brinks box. The Brinks effectively establishes a high and a low, okay? And that high can act as a resistance or a support. But it also tells us if the market is favoring higher prices or lower prices. And what it does inside of that box itself is going to dictate if it's going to go higher. The usual consensus says that if it can break above the high of the Brinks box, then usually it's going to continue away from that. If it goes to the low of the Brinks box, it usually is going to continue away from that. So looking at NASDAQ, I mean, now NASDAQ's coming back down again. It looks like, and then the box is not formed yet. I've still got another 25 minutes because I'm going to be updating the guys on the actual Brinks box play that we're going for today. But it's not formed yet. So wait until the Brinks finishes. And then when the Brinks finishes, pay attention to what's going on inside of the Brinks box. Do you have any vector candles? Where are you in relation to the EMAs? What's the data that's come out? Has price been moving up for a while or has it been moving down for a while? Where is it in relation to specific Asian session ranges like Monday? And then that will give you a, not so much a bias, but how are you able to extract intention of the market based on what it's doing around specific areas? Okay. Quick example. How would you expect a Ferrari to turn a sharp corner? The idea is that the Ferrari is going to turn really well, aerodynamically created to sit flat, cut through the wind and what have you. Now take a truck. How do you expect a truck to turn a corner? It's not being aerodynamically created. It's a massive block, okay? So when you're witnessing intention of both the Ferrari and the truck making its way to something based on a number of confluences, good tires, 50 EMA, vector candles, traction, gear stick, the driver, all of those confluences that add together to give you the weight of the idea of the Ferrari cutting the corner well, is going to let you understand that, yeah, maybe this trade's going to work out. But if you're not getting those confluences and you are still seeing problems with the move in the sense that they're not seeing the full intention, the truck not aerodynamically created, bad brakes, the driver's a loose cannon, you're not going to be expecting the truck to cut the corner well, okay? When you put it in that perspective, then it kind of makes life a little bit easier for you to just say, you know what, I'm done. I'll just take the trade. Because there ain't no number of confluences that can come into play to guarantee the move is going to work. Take 100 confluences and 99 of them come into play. You take your trade, you lose. Take, again, 100 confluences, one comes into play, and you just take the trade, and it ends up becoming the best trade ever. Focus on intention, ladies and gentlemen, and then you'll get a feel, because I believe that trading is a lot of intuition. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please go and trade safely, and I will be checking in with you all later on tonight. Hit the like and subscribe, and I need to stop bloody winking. Take care of yourselves, gang. I just did it then. Peace, gang. And again, what a guy.